Hey guys, it's Lizzie McGhee here at Grafton Barber TV. Once again you will find us at the Grand Social. Tonight we are here for the launch of the Dublin Bowie Festival. It's the 4th edition and we are very privileged to have in our midst lovely Dr. Niamh Shaw. She is from the Observatory in Blackrock. We are going to speak to some musicians, we're going to speak to some filmmakers, we're going to speak to the lovely guys from Hot Press magazine. Stay tuned for more. Guys, I'm here with the lovely Niamh Shaw, Blackrock Observatory Centre.
Yeah.
Niamh, I have one very important question.
Yeah.
How does one become a star man or a star woman?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, you can do it in lots of different ways, can't you? But I mean, it's definitely a combination of a lovely kind of an analytical logic mind and a creative mind, and not giving yourself any boundaries, you know what I mean? It's about like looking beyond and embracing failure to get to the point where you feel you've achieved it.
Tell me, I believe that most people have a dream that they want to win the lotto. Your dream is that you want to go to Mars.
Yeah, I want to go to Mars or the moon. There was an announcement recently where Elon Musk, do you know who Elon Musk is? So he's the man who owns his own space company called SpaceX. And he is doing a tourist event to the moon for a week. And the billionaire announced about 2 weeks ago, he's a billionaire from Japan, and he's paying for 8 artists to join him to go around the maiden voyage around the moon. I'd do that. I'd definitely do that. And then maybe Mars. But it's all about coming back, because I don't really want to just go to space. It's about like what you do with that experience and how you share it with people and what good you can do, you know, with that information.
Okay, Niamh, so you've dabbled in, you're an actress,
Yeah.
you are a space woman,
Yeah.
you are a comedy woman. How does one become involved in the David Bowie Festival?
It was totally through Laura. You heard John mention there from the stage. So Laura and I did a graduate program called the Space Studies program. I did it the year before her. And basically it's like this mafia network of people involved in space. And at the same time, Blackrock Observatory were working with Martin, who's Jack L's manager. And he was working with John and Eugene who ran this to make the Starman song happen. So between the two things together, I met them and we started talking about what kind of events we could get. And because I'm really interested in the combination of where science and art meet, it's a perfect fit for this festival. So we've lots of things in the pipeline. I only just announced a few of them. I might do one of my theatre shows here if I can get the right kind of setup. So, yeah.
And tell me, your biggest Bowie influence, what do you think it was?
I think it's, for me, I actually think it's Starman. It's actually Starman. It's the words of Starman. And I remember seeing an amazing documentary about it, like this was long before I was born, about his process, and watching how he was able to bring groups of people together and give people a specific way to, you know, sing a certain line or to bring in a certain piece of percussion. That's almost like wizardry, you know, to know music that well, but to be so experimental. I think that's the thing that really inspires me the most, because he was fearless. He never prevented himself from trying something and wondering whether it would work or not. He would just do it. And I have tried to do that. I mean, when you say you want to go to space, initially people think you're insane, you know. So to get to somewhere where you're perfectly comfortable with it, you have to go through that process yourself and go, I can't think about the circumstances, I can't think about the what ifs, I just have to do. And thinking about yourself and your place in space, for me, set me free. So his piece Starman, I think, encapsulates for me why we should go to space and why I want to go to space. So he's amazing.
Niamh, I just really want to know, if you go to space, will you tell us, is there a Starman waiting in the sky? And do you think there is?
Oh, it would be lovely, wouldn't it? I'd love to think that you'd meet him there, or that there's somebody up on the moon. Or scientifically, I don't think so. You know, I mean, I work with people who are astrobiologists, so they're people that specialise in small little microorganisms. There might be them in space, but I would very much doubt that we have the ability to go beyond our solar system. That's the first thing. And within our solar system, I would very much doubt that we actually have any beings that are similar to us. But if you hop across into another galaxy, who knows? We have to get this generation to invent a new type of motion that allows us to go much faster through space, and maybe we'll figure it out.
So if you manage to make it to space, do you think you'd be able to get some music going in your rocket or in your spaceship when you go up there?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I definitely play music. I have my music on all the time, all the time. I do everything to music. When I'm working, driving, running, thinking. Music is like, I didn't realise how much I was into music until I kind of stopped listening to it. Do you know what I mean? But like, I can't sing, I can't play, although I'm from a family of musicians. I don't know, it must have passed to Gene. But music is a very integral part of me figuring stuff out and thinking, and particularly the more abstract it is, the better it is for my mind, you know.
Niamh, you're fairly fantastic. I hope you and your amazing red hair make it to space. Guys, the amazing Niamh Shaw, thanks so much for talking to us, Niamh. Thanks.
Yeah.
So Brian, tell me, how did you start the London Boys?
I've been doing the 60s stuff for about, I don't know, 20 years or something, like, you know, on my own, just with the guitar. And then when the Bowie Festival came around for the first time, I'd already known John and how much of a fanatic of a Bowie fan he is. He was organising it, but he wasn't part musically, and I said, why not, John, can I get a band together and do the 60s stuff? And John said, yeah, providing one thing. And I said, what's that? And I said, if I'm the guitar player. I said, well, perfect. So John came on board as a guitar player. It's a 6-piece band, mind you, so what you saw tonight was very stripped down. But it's really good. The music is fantastic. It's very high octane, some of them. So it's very dark and coming of age as well. The song London Boys in particular is about like him moving to London, like as getting his first flat. Well, not moving to London, he was from there, but like, I mean, getting his first flat, moving out of his parents, that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of coming of age subject matter, which is really interesting.
But listen to you, you're very Bowie-like. Did you cultivate that, or is that natural?
In what sense?
In your voice, in your octave?
Oh, it's just a baritone thing, I think. Well, I grew up listening to Bowie. I grew up listening to ballad singers as well, and kind of manly baritone type singers. So there's a lot of power that comes with that type of vocal range. And then I'm a big fan of Scott Walker as well. And then Shaq Burrell and all those kind of guys. So.
And tell me, why just the 60s and pre-60s stuff?
Because nobody else is doing it.
Interesting.
Everybody else can do it. I mean, I can do all the other stuff, all the hits as well, but why bother? Everybody else is looking after that, so I prefer to do. And it is a particular. When I first heard Rubber Band and songs like that when I was in my teens, that was what got me into Bowie. Not the other stuff, like not the hits. I was more into metal. But when I heard this kind of stuff, it's kind of bonkers a bit, you know. And that's what I liked about it. It wasn't really run of the mill sort of stuff, and I couldn't believe it was Bowie in the first place.
And what does Bowie mean to you?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it? Well, I mean, he's been always there as an artistic kind of vocal point. As you're aware, if you got lost as an artist, I've been playing music for over 30 years now. He's just always been knocking around doing something. So like when you find artists of that iconic nature and they're doing it, it just means that you're doing something right as well.
And tell me, what sticks in your mind as your favourite Bowie song?
That's the last one that I just did, When I'm 5, is special to me for some goddamn reason, I don't know. Others, there's just too much of a big catalogue. I mean, Absolute Beginners is fantastic as well, so I don't know.
And Space Oddity 50 years,
Newley
can
Brothers,
you believe?
probably.
Okay, so you have a lot in your collection.
Of all of it.
And tell me, the London Boys, where do you guys tour?
We've been to England to do Bowie conventions there, and we're going back next year as well. So we'll start in Dublin and then we'll move on over to England to the Midlands first and hopefully get down to London then to do more.
And tell me,
because nobody over there does it either. Everybody's just all the big hits.
So did you ever get the chance to meet the man himself?
No.
Would you have liked to have had if you had the opportunity?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
If he was standing here tonight and you could say one thing to him, what would it be?
Well, just thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for the music.
Just thank you for it. It is. Well, just thank you. Like, what else can you say to the man? Listen, really, you're an inspiration. Thanks very much. Probably what everybody else say. But I probably wouldn't say it like that. I'd probably come out like blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? I'm
sure many people when they meet you think exactly the same thing.
I know exactly what to say to them when they meet, but it just sounds like blah.
Guys, from one legend to another. Thanks so much for saying.
Pleasure to meet you. All the best. Enjoy.
Guys, this wouldn't be possible without the man sitting beside me. It is the lovely Eugene Connolly. Eugene, this is your baby.
Well, it's not my baby actually, Liz, I have to say. It's John Burton's baby, but I'm the son of John in many ways, you know, so I was very happy to get on board. 2 years ago when Bowie died, a good pal of mine, Dave Frew, who was in An Emotional Fish, rang me and said, hey, do you want to get together? We'll sing a few songs. We were all in tears. It was a very emotional time. We booked the the Brian Boru in Filsra, and the only area they had for us was in the conservatory, you know, and we're thinking, well, with all the sound of the guitars going to bounce all over the place. And then we start making a few phone calls. Before we knew it, we had like 150 people, and we thought, oh, we're going to have to go bigger. So we booked Sinead across the river there. I don't know if you know it, but a friend of ours, Kieran, owns it. So we did it, and it was just an astonishing night. It was a busk, yes, but everyone was in tears. But you know, Bowie had only died 3 or 4 days, so it's inevitable. So we knew we had something special, and we thought we have to do this again. So John had been running the Dublin Bowie Festival, a one-nighter, a two-nighter. When Bowie died, this venue became the Grand Social, a vigil sort of venue, inside and out, for 2 days after he died. So John asked me, would we like to do our thing within the festival? And I thought, that's wonderful, why wouldn't we? So 2 years ago, well, we formed a thing called Bowie Raw. So the idea of Bowie Raw was to have it in a very basic format. We weren't going to be doing the funky stuff and the let's dance and all this stuff. We were doing early Bowie. So it was stripped down, because his music, his chord changes, his lyrics in particular are so dense and important that people, you know, kind of, it passes them by. So we were in, and we were given the final night, the last night. I thought, this is fantastic. I was made up. So we put it all together over a year with my great friend Dave McGinley, who's the music director, and Dave Frew. And we did the show, and it was just stunning. Now, my childhood friend Christy Dignam, you know Christy, you interviewed him a little while back. He was going to do it, but as it turned out, it was the 10th of January, and Christy had to go to London to get this once-a-year procedure that they can only do in London, this particular hospital, so he couldn't make it. Devastated. So what we did was, we made a video of him doing 2 songs, which I believe upstairs in Hanlon's Corner, and we played the 2 songs during the live gig, and people were just crying their eyes out. It was so emotional and passionate, and it was just absolutely stunning. Now, we're talking here, I'm expecting Christy to walk in the door any minute. He's going to sing a song for us tonight. So that's how that came about. And then last year, was it 2 years ago, John said to me, hey, would you like to come on board with me, because I've so much on my shoulders trying to run this thing, you know. And I said, well, I'd love to, you know. So that broadened out. So last year was an amazing experience. He talked a little bit about it, Woody Woodmansey. Met these people, just absolutely stunning and gorgeous people to be working with. And then for this year, John mentioned it in his opening speech there, in between his kids acting the maggot, which is beautiful. Which is as much the spirit of the festival as anything, I think. It was John's idea to tie the festival in to the idea of the moon landing, the whole 50th anniversary. And then, you know, well, Bowie had his Space Oddity thing, which kicked off the whole. So I thought it's a brilliant idea. I mean, it's genius. You know, it's kind of a eureka moment. And we thought, right, well, let's try and contact some kind of space type people. So we got on to the Trinity Space Gallery, Science Gallery rather, and they got on to other people, the Blackrock Observatory, and it turns out they were doing the Starman single. So they got us involved. They saw this as a great tie-in for them, because they have so many events throughout the year, but they essentially not play, but they have the same audience, which are all beautiful, scientific-minded people, but they don't ever branch out. So they saw this. There's a thing called STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, which is a Europe-wide movement. And the Blackrock Observatory get their funding from Europe. You know, it's all about teaching kids in school about science, the sciences. And that's where the new technology is. I mean, obviously, but that's where the new work is. People think about rockets and about going to different planets and all that, and that's all lovely, but it's really about satellites and satellite technology and coming back down and geo imaging, you know, of the planet and what can be done. And so there's a lot of environmental stuff to it as well, which I find fascinating because I have a degree in environmental management myself. Funny enough, there's a tie-in there. So, so the more we beget the next science body, it just became like, this is such a wonderful tie-in. And I mentioned STEM there, that acronym. There's also STEAM. So what I said with the science, the maths and all that sort of stuff, the A is arts, right? So again, they're trying to teach the love of maths and science and all those things through the arts. Who better to do that would be through one of the greatest artists we believe ever existed, with David Bowie. Now, Bowie did, as we all know, Space Oddity, Starman, Life on Mars, all that sort of stuff. Like, the Rolling Stones didn't do that. The Beatles didn't do it. There's only one person who's associated with space travel, as it were. So, Bowie's gone. We have the 50th anniversary of humankind's most amazing achievement, walking on the moon, in 1969. And since we put it out there, it's just gone through the roof, to the stars, if you like. It's a perfect alliance, you know, it's a perfect alliance. So, in as much as we have our festival in the second week of January, this whole thing, the science, space aspect, is going to go on for 12 months at least. And man actually landed on the moon and walked on the moon in July, so that's going to get a second bump, right? So it's like, you know, all these space movies are coming out now. Of course they are. One of our own people, Niamh, her name escapes me, oh my goodness, but she directed a film called The Farthest, and it just won an Emmy there 3 days ago. So as we do these things, every person that we're talking to goes, yes, I want to be involved. So we're going to show her a movie, probably in the Stella Cinema in Rathmines, and she's going to do a Q&A afterwards with Dr. Niamh Shaw. Sorry, just to get back to the Starman single, I told you we have I Heart Bowie, who produced it, with a brilliant guy called Alex. But we had the Trinity Orchestra, well, you know, a 6-piece string section, and we had the National Children's Choir on it as well. So it's finished, well, 98% finished. The only other things we have to do is tie in with Jerry Leonard from Bowie's band, from Clontarf, and Mike Garson, to put their little flourishes over it. So now it's going to have an international flavour, if you like. It's not just a little Irish thing. And we also have booked in Buzz Aldrin to do a spoken word outro. And the way we're going to work that, you know, it's going to be almost like, you know, a broadcast from the moon, you know, staccato, but he's up for it. He wants to do it, you know. So we had other things that we had in mind for the festival, which I won't mention. They might still happen, and if they do, it's going to be, you know, the cream of the whole thing. But we're in negotiation because there's a lot of, should we say money involved, or no, let's just say big organisation involved with that.
So tell me, if you could pick one thing that you're most excited about for this Dublin Bowie Festival, what would it be?
Well, obviously besides the whole thing, I have to say that, right? But we open up with I Heart Bowie and the Dublin with Trinity Orchestra doing the entirety of Space Oddity in the National Concert Hall. So everything, like last year we had 26 events in 16 venues. We had 8,000 people involved. And we've been in the George, we've been in the Sugar Club, and we've been in Whelan's. But now we're going maybe a little upmarket. We're in the National Concert Hall, which I think is amazing. And I went to the launch of Space Week, which is happening at the moment, and that's why we chose to have our own launch within the Space Week. I went to launch it down the Blackrock Observatory down in Cork a few weeks ago, the day after the electric picnic, which is kind of 8 o'clock start in the morning, but I did it. And it was launched by our Minister for Science and Technology and all that, Mr. John Kelleher. and he did his speech and all that. And then, of course, I got speaking to him afterwards. Turns out he's a huge Bowie fan. You know, the Starman single was part of his whole speech anyway, and we were mentioned. So I said hello to him, and he said, "Look, this is absolutely amazing what you're doing. So whatever you're doing, please keep me in the loop. I want to be involved." I'd asked him would he launch the festival tonight, which is only really a media launch, but unfortunately, hey, the budget got in the way, right? So he's in there arguing in the Dáil, but he said 100% he'll be in the National Concert Hall to launch the festival for us, which is a beautiful gesture on his part, but also practically, in many ways, that's his remit, that's his job, to promote space, science, technology, and we're doing that. So what better way to do it through the arts? And we feel that, after the Starman single in late November and coming up to Christmas, and then kicking into January, perhaps it'll be, like every year, a slow media month, and we have our Dublin Bowie Festival as the start of the year of the moon landings.
Is it every year that you find the Dublin Bowie Festival is just growing and growing and growing?
Well, particularly for next January. Now, myself and John have already sussed out next year, which is going to be the Man Who Saw the World, which the emphasis is going to be on Mick Ronson. Now, I know it's not that, exciting and perhaps accessible to the general public, but for Bowie kind of nerds, that's really important. And may I just say to you as well, one of the things that drives John and myself, in terms of the eclectic nature of the festival, is that if we were to have a festival, and they have them in London, they have them up in Derby, they have it whatever, it's a 2-day thing in one venue with 20 bands playing Bowie. I couldn't do that. That would not excite me. Tribute bands, saw a good joke yesterday actually about when's that tribute band going to do their breaking up tour, that says it all, really, So, you die of boredom. Everybody...
And it doesn't get better than Rebel Rebel. We have to admit that.
Well, Rebel Rebel are a huge band, and I should mention them. And I know you asked me what was my thing, and I will say that. I'm sorry to go on a little bit, but I just want to say that a huge part of the festival for John and myself is that we would have people who were, not first generation, it's close to Bowie and worked with Bowie. Even though other people wouldn't know them, it's really important for us to get them here. We had Jonathan Barnbrook last year. He did the last 4 Bowie albums. He did Black Star. He did 300 and odd iterations of that album. We had it up in NCAD, so yeah, you could say there was a lot of graphic design nerds there, which I'm one. But to hear this man talking about his relationship with Bowie, and he said they just used to laugh like drains the whole time, and I thought that's just wonderful. A lot of people think Bowie, is this icon and all that, especially people within my own circle. I don't feel that way. I love Bowie, yeah, but I love the music, but I love the other things he did, the silly things, and I think that's what makes him so important. So I just wanted to say that. So we feel we need to do that every year, to have the most eclectic kind of Bowie type things that you could imagine, or you can't imagine. And that'll all come out in the wash now for the second launch, which we'll be having in about a month's time. But a lot of things to tie down. But other things we have, of course, Rebel Rebel, the beautiful Peter Quinn. It doesn't get any better than that. What else do we have? Well, we have Bowie's band. I was going to say this huge thing that we're 90-odd%, but I won't mention that.
Go on, can we not have a little exclusive, please, Eugene?
Well, we have probably the most famous not living, but current astronaut in the world going to do his show in the Olympia. But we're just trying to cross our T's and dots our I's on that. So
we got an exclusive here, lads, on Grafton Barber TV. Just saying. We'll be shot for this, but it's all worth it.
Very close ties with Ireland as well, and he would have been up on the space. The shuttle, and he would have sung Space Oddity up there. Well, anyway, look, it might not happen. If it doesn't, that's fine. We have so many.
We live in hope.
We live in hope, but it would be the icing on the cake, but we have so many other things happening. We have London Boys who are playing in there as well, which I've got to get back in and see them. Christy's going to do he's going to sing in the National Concert Hall, as is Gavin Friday. Like, it's going to be absolutely stunning, you know. But we have something on every day. In fact, we have probably 3 or 4 things every day, and it's our job to, you know, to manage the festival, to curate it so that, you know, different things aren't on at the same time.
This is exhausting, Eugene, considering this is something you just do as a passion, not even as, you know.
Well, I've kind of done it my whole life, to be honest with you. When I met Christy Dignam first when I was 16.
Mila 18, created in your back bedroom?
That's right, yeah, the first gig in my back garden and all this sort of stuff. Would you believe I'm actually, another exclusive for you. I put together an autobiography for Christy, and we're almost there. We're hoping to have it out for Christmas. And I proofread it the other day, and it brought a lot of memories back, you know. And it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be in everyone's Christmas stocking for Christmas, you know. And I work very closely with Christy all the time, you know, and he's just...
He was also influenced by Bowie.
Oh, well, that's it. And I said to him that for me, the Bowie Festival is Christy. He's the patron of Bowie for me, because I heard him singing Rebel Rebel. Do you know what? I remember Caroline Says, you know, like Lou Reed and Velvet Underground stuff as well, Waiting for My Man, you know. And I thought, what is this music? You know, this was a 17-year-old kid and singing. I thought, he's really good, you know. And you don't know anything when you're that age, but you just instinctively know that he's not just a great singer. This is world-beating stuff, you know. And he's still doing it, and he's in fine fettle at the moment. And you know, in my heart, he's the patron of this festival. He is Bowie for me, and I'm delighted to say that he does want to get involved with this one again. So, you know, I keep saying things that I probably shouldn't say, so I probably shouldn't talk anymore. But we have so many other things on. I'm sure you talked to John and the minor details. I don't know if I can think of things at the moment. We've traditionally had stuff in the George. We've had, you know, Ashes for Lashes, you know, all the drag queens, all that sort of stuff. We'll have stuff in the liquor rooms, which is the poetry.
So basically, you're telling me you're taking over Dublin with the Dublin Bowie Festival.
Well, we have done, as I said, there was 16 different venues last year and 26, I think, different events. For example, we're running a competition in the schools to build your own rocket, and that's going to be launched on the Sunday, the second last day of the festival, up in Dunsink Observatory, to the refrains of Starman. So the winning entries are going to be Let the Rockets Off. So there's so many different things. We're also up, we've like 4 or 5 different Bowie movies up in the Lighthouse in Smithfield.
Tell me, which is your favourite
movie?
Yes.
Well, probably The Man Who Fell to Earth for me. I just remember it so vividly, and that's one thing I would say as well. When I met Dr. Niamh Shaw, she's such an imposing character, you know, amazing woman. And the first thing she said to myself and John, she said, "Why do you like Bowie?" And I thought, wow, that's a clever woman. That's a great question to ask. If I'm going to get involved with you, I want to know where you're coming from in this, you know. So we both said, well, John said, well, you know, the music for me. I said, people hark back to not so much Space Oddity, but Starman perhaps on Top of the Pops, where he pointed his finger at the camera, you know, and he said, you know, I had to phone someone, I picked on you, and all these, you know, in my case, 13-year-old kids sitting at home going, wow, that guy's really strange, but I want a bit of that, because I'm a bit like that myself, you know, a bit outside of the box. And it started off a whole lifetime fascination with this incredible artist, you know, not just a singer, not a pop star, just everything he did, his words, his lyrics, the whole thing, you know. So that's what kicked it off for me. Incidentally, at the end of our conversation, I said to Dr. Shaw, you know, Niamh, I'm really fond of you. I'm just so glad I've met you. I said, but one thing is in my head, like, we've only just met, but apparently you're going off to Mars and we've only just met, so when am I going to see you again? But of course, you told me that it only takes 6 weeks now through Elon Musk. So I'm learning all this stuff. It's absolutely wonderful. And I think the whole space thing, I think everybody should dip into it. You know, it's all of us. Yes, there's homelessness. Yes, there's problems. Yes, there's stuff in our daily lives. But we need to be looking at the stars as well. I think that's where the answer lies for our own imagination and our own well-being and health.
Eugene, you said a lot of amazing facts there and a lot of stuff that's coming up, but if you were to do a soundtrack to your life, what would be the #1 Bowie track that would be on it?
Well, actually, somebody asked me about that earlier on, and
how dare them rub my question?
I know, yeah. No, not tonight. But do you know what it was? It was actually more prosaic than that. It was a Facebook Bowie group that I thought, oh, maybe I'll just say hello to them. But one of the questions to join the group was, what's your favourite Bowie track, you know? So I thought about it. I just said Rock and Roll Suicide for me, because I suppose it always reflects your age, you know. And I remember distinctly, you know, thinking about that, and I thought, that's just off the wall. I love it, you know. So all the other things followed on from that, of course, you know. A few years ago, we had our launch like this up in upstairs in Whelan's, and Christy sang, and Dave McGilley and Andy Keating played Cahan, and Joe.ie were there. They were asking people what was their favourite Bowie lyric, you know, and people were saying various things, and our saxophone player, Gallo, who I played hurling for Dublin when I was 14, 16 and 18 with him. We go way back, and he's a lovely guy from the Navan Road, and he said, my favourite lyric, he said, put on your red shoes and dance the blues.
I couldn't put it better than that, guys. The organiser, don't let him listen to anything else. Eugene Connolly. Eugene, thanks so much for having us tonight. Thank you so. Guys, I'm here with the beautiful Keely, the only lady in the room that we're interviewing tonight. She is from the band Popscar. Keely, hello.
Hello.
I like we're twins with our matching glitter tonight.
That's right, we're rocking the glitter all the way.
Loving it. And so, Keely, tell me, how did you get involved in the Dublin Bowie Festival?
Well, I think originally it was Popscar were invited to perform at the very first, the inaugural Dublin Bowie Festival event, and we performed at that, and then we've been asked back each successive year.
And tell me, how does it feel to be part of such a huge, iconic event?
It's an incredible honour. I mean, you know, David Bowie, I think for anyone with a degree of interest in music, and I mean, not only in terms of music, in terms of the arts, in terms of cinema, in terms of, he was like a cultural a life force who kind of managed to dominate his field artistically, and had such an effect not only in his own solo career, but in terms of producing Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, and in terms of constantly shape-shifting and evolving and transforming himself through the glam rock era, then into kind of working with Brian Eno, working with Tony Visconti, and the Berlin period. You know, I could talk all night, but he's just an incredible musical and cultural icon.
This is what I love when I speak to a Bowie fan or a Bowie musician. You all can talk all night on your icon, but what pinpoint for you is the favourite Bowie era or the most iconic thing that he's done?
I think for me, for any artist who experiences enormous success, and with all of the confusion that brings about, and especially at the time, you know, Bowie was obviously heavily involved in drugs. It would have been so easy for him to have been sidetracked by that lifestyle, and for him to have been sucked into, you know, living in Los Angeles at the time, sucked into a very showbiz kind of an empty space without the kind of the rich vein of creativity that he was able to actually mine. I think for him to actually move to Berlin at that time and embark upon this incredible creative journey where he created these 3 albums, Low, Heroes and Lodger, that for me, that perfect trilogy, and also the album just before that, Station to Station, which kind of hinted at the direction he was going to go in. Incredibly brave, edgy, and I think as well something that I think he kind of blazed the trail for artists to go and take creative risks, and even if it is at the expense possibly of alienating the record company or alienating part of their fan base.
And when you look around tonight, there's a lot of the London boys are here. Peter Quinn from Rebel Rebels here. What's it like when you meet fellow Bowie tribute artists? Is there a jealousy or rivalry in the room?
Definitely not. Definitely, I think there's just a shared love of the great man, and there's also a sense of kinship, because Bowie's very much an outsider artist, and he's one of the very few instances of a genuine outsider artist crossing over into the mainstream and having that huge global success and being able to kind of galvanize, you know, the misfits of the world, essentially. So this is kind of a bit like a gathering of Bowie-loving misfits. So yeah, there's no rivalry whatsoever.
And tell me, what's your favourite song that you love to perform?
My favourite song, well, my favourite Bowie song would be Station to Station, the title track of Station to Station. But that's actually not in the set that we're doing tonight. But I think my favourite one that we do is a song entitled, Lady Stardust, which I kind of sing half of the leads on. That'd be one, and then Fantastic Voyage as well, which is we do a very kind of, I think, quite original take on a song. It's from Lodger, yeah.
And are you going to catch up with any of his movies when they're being shown in the Lighthouse now over the next few weeks?
For sure, without doubt. I mean, I haven't seen Labyrinth since since I was a child. So I'm hoping to rewatch that again and kind of have a bit of a nostalgic a throwback to my childhood. And then the other movies like Moon and Man Who Sold the World, which of course his son was kind of so heavily involved in, which I haven't actually seen before, so I'm looking forward to seeing those as well.
And the night you heard Bowie had died, do you remember where you were?
What was that, sorry?
The night that you heard Bowie had passed away, where were you?
I remember that very well. I was getting up for work at 6:30 in the morning when I'm out of my mind because I'm a night owl and I hate getting up so early. I switched my computer on as I was doing to have my breakfast, because I always accompany having breakfast with reading an article in The Guardian. Switched on straight to the Guardian website, and there it was, dead at 69. So I was just in shock, in mourning the whole day. I was like a zombie in work. And fortunately, I was working in a library, and there was a lot of other people there who shared this love for Bowie, and we all kind of were able to, have the empathy for one another, and as real Bowie fans and Bowie fanatics, and that we were able to kind of help each other through the enormity of that occasion. Yeah.
And Bowie, if you could meet the man once and say one thing to him, what would it be?
If I could say one thing to him, oh God, it would be something really nerdy, because I'm such a fangirl. Like I'm such a musical nerd, So it would be something like, why didn't you put that song on that album, or why did that happen? It'd be something like that. Like off the top of my head, it'd be something like, why did you not put Bombers on Hunky Dory instead of Fill Your Heart? That's what I'd say to him, and he'd go, go away. You've got better things to be doing with your time. Worrying about tracking.
Bowie, if you're listening, Kaylee has that question. Kaylee, the stage is calling. It's fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing your set. Thanks so much, darling.
Thank you.
Guys, we have learned that through David Bowie, music, art, film, photography, the whole lot unite. We're about to see a lovely interview with John, who is the other brainchild behind the Dublin Bowie Festival. Bowie, you have brought all these people together through your music and art, and we're looking forward to seeing what is going to happen in January. Guys, from all of us in Grafton Barber TV, talk to you soon. Thanks a million. He's doing a little bit of free advertising in case you didn't know. David Bowie, this is the lovely John, and he is the man behind the David Bowie Festival 2019. How are you, John?
Good, yeah, looking forward to seeing Rebel tonight with Mr. Peter Quinn on lead vocals.
You and Peter go back a very long way, I believe, John.
Yeah. We were doing a Bowie night in the Mercantile one night, a club I ran, Sunday Roast, and I don't know how we actually met or whatever, but Peter came in and sang a few songs, and then he told me about Rebel, and they were playing at the Talca House up in Glasnevin. So I went to see them, and I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. So just kind of went on from there, just kind of helped them out with a few gigs and all. And then myself and Peter, we started the Bowie Birthday Bash here back in, God, it must be in 2011, I think, or 2010, maybe 2011. And then in 2015, we came up with the idea of the festival and doing it over a weekend in the Grand Social. And Jerry Leonard, Bowie's guitarist, kind of fell into our lap, and then, of course, the next day Bowie died, and just kind of spiraled out of control from there. So anyway, that's my association with Peter. So delighted they're headlining again the festival, so they always put on an amazing show.
So January 2019, where are the venues that we should be looking out for?
The Olympia, the Academy, Grand Social, the Lighthouse Cinema, I think the RDS probably as well, National Concert Hall, and a few others.
And how long does the event run for?
It'll be from January the 8th to 13th. So 5 months.
Long time.
Yeah, it's actually less next year than this year has been, because obviously Bowie's birthday is the 8th of January and his anniversary is the 10th, so we always try and get those two pivotal dates in within the period. But because just the way the weeks fall, we're starting with the 8th to the weekend on the Sunday 13th, you know, so it is a long old time, yeah. That's great.
We're looking forward to seeing some new things being added this year. What can we expect?
Well, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Space Oddity, the album. So we're going all intergalactic. So we can't reveal who our headline guest is, but we're going to have some NASA astronauts, and we're going to be linking up with the Trinity Science Gallery, with the Blackrock Castle Observatory as well, Dunsink Observatory, and Inspire Space. We're going to be involved in schools as well. There's going to be a design your own rocket competition in nationwide, and the rocket will be built and launched at Dunsink Observatory during the festival.
So what's your history with Bowie, and how did you get involved and start the festival, really?
My history with Bowie, well, he robbed me of a lot of years of my life. When all my mates were out playing on the sidewalk, I was there immersing myself in those albums like all Bowie fans normally do. They just shut themselves off from the world when they discovered him. So I discovered him probably just around when I was leaving school, and that was it. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Couldn't believe the back catalogue, and how he just changed from year to year, all the stylistic changes and the musical differences and everything. So yeah, just since then really, you know, and went to see the Serious Moonlight Tour in Milton Keynes in 1983, and then went to a Bowie convention in Earl's Court in 1983, and that kind of blew my mind, because it's just thousands of people all dressed up as Ziggy Stardust and all. And so I suppose that was the kernel of the Bowie Festival, going to that event, you know. So yeah.
Where were you the night you found out that he died?
Here. Well, we had just finished the festival here, so I'd left Jerry Leonard, his guitar player, to the hotel about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were just, Jerry said, the next time I see David, I'm going to tell him how brilliant this all was. And so I was like, that's great, you know, finally might get to meet him. And then my 4-year-old son woke me up the next morning and said, Daddy, bad news, David Bowie's dead. I was like, so I just couldn't believe it, you know, so that was it. And then we were myself and Jerry were on kind of television and radio all day that day, like on Joe Duffy, and we had a vigil here. Then that night, Peter actually contacted me and says, John, all the fans are on Facebook saying we got to meet up, like, because we had people who had come up from abroad for the festival, and like they weren't going home, and everyone wanted to be together. So we just kind of put out a message that there'd be a vigil in the Grand Social from 6 o'clock onwards, and all the TV crews, so BBC, UTV, BBC Northern Ireland sent someone down as well, and it was pretty mad. But yeah, that was it.
This is getting fairly crowded in here, so John, one last question. What's your favourite Bowie moment that you can think of from all the years that you followed him?
I suppose seeing him for the first time in Milton Keynes was amazing, but the Olympia gig now has to be a special moment, especially when he done Quicksand, which is a real Bowie kind of nerd's album track, and he came on with that, or it was the second track in the Olympia. So that was pretty, I mean, he was amazing that night. He played about a 3-hour set, and he was just bouncing around the stage, and it was brilliant, you know. So I've seen him a good few times, so it's delighted to have seen him in the flesh, you know. It was amazing.
John, lovely to talk to you, and the very best of luck with the festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.